This is a local storm team severe weather alert.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Arnold. We apologize for cutting in on your regularly scheduled programming, but the Weather Service out of Memphis has issued a tornado warning until 2:45, and this does include northern portions of Poinsett County in northeastern Arkansas. So we're coming on the air this afternoon to make sure that folks in the path of this storm have that information so they can stay safe. As we take a look at the storm itself, the area we're keeping a close eye on here is just north of Wiener. Looks like this storm is primarily pushing off to the east, but just a little bit of a southerly component. So when they issued this warning, does include the cities of Wiener down into Harrisburg. Truman, really the area that we're going to be keeping a close eye on here over the next several minutes, as it looks like the storm is heading in your direction. I want to jump right into our radar tools here and show you what we're looking at. And as you can see, we have this area right here. Let me zoom in just a little bit, just south of Otwell there, but you can see this is our velocity. This is looking at the winds inside of our storm. So red would be winds moving away from the storm. Greens be moving toward the radar, I should say. This located in Millington. But you can see those reds and greens bumped up right next to each other. So that's where we're seeing that circulation. And like I said, this for the most part moving off to our east. So as we go over the next several minutes here, we're going to be looking, like I said, Truman on the back end of that warning there. But a lot of little cities here in the path of the storm. Mulligan down into Gullet, Greenfield there as well. Let me go back to our radar here and put this into motion so you can see what we're going to be dealing with here over the next several minutes here. As we zoom out, let me actually step off so I can get this into motion here and get you a little bit more information from the Weather Service as well. Because like I said, this was just issued a few moments ago. We wanted to get on air and make sure that you had the latest information. The storm, as I mentioned, moving east at about 30 miles an hour. So you certainly do have time if you are in the path of the storm to get inside and to get to a safe place. There is that storm motion, like I said, and that is going to be moving basically off to the east. So let me put a storm track on this so that you know exactly where this storm is going to be heading here in just the next several minutes. About 30 miles an hour. So there's the track right there. Truman. 253. So, like I said, if you're in the eastern portions of Poinsett County, you are going to be under this warning, but you certainly have time before the storm works its way into place. So 216 right now, you've got at least a half hour before it gets into Truman there. But like I said, you've got a lot of smaller towns here just north of Harrisburg that's going to be in the path of the storm. You're probably going to be seeing this in the next 15 minutes or so. So certainly want to make sure that you're aware of that. The good news right now, the way the storm is heading, looks like it's going to pass just north of Wiener there. So even though you are technically under this warning, at this point, not expecting you to be directly impacted by this storm. Same for Harrisburg. You're right on that line, but it looks like the storm is going to be heading more east than anything. So like I said, Truman, the one area we're going to continue to keep a very close eye on. And as we clear things out, let's take a look at some of our other radar products here. Because like I said, tornado warning is really the big thing right now. Radar indicated. I do want to stress that. What we're seeing right now with this warning is all on the radar. We have not had anybody on the ground yet confirm this, but certainly a serious situation. We do not want to take that lightly. Let's take a look at the hail with this as well, because before they issued that tornado warning, this area was under a severe thunderstorm watch, and this is radar indicated hail, and you can see those darker blacks there. That indicates some pretty good sized hail. The warning that we had previously had hail possibly up to about 1 3/4 inches, even 2-inch hail possible with this storm. So that can cause some serious damage there. Usually around 1 inch is when we start to get worried, but obviously that is well beyond that scope. But like I said, this is what we're really keeping an eye on right now. And this is this area of rotation here. Like I said, it's now northeast of Wiener, but heading due east. So like I said, areas from Mulligan down into Greenfield, you're going to want to get inside right now, get into your safe place, wherever that may be, whether it's a basement, first floor, away from windows, things like closets, interior bathrooms, things like that. But you want to make sure that before this gets to where you are, that you are in a place to where this is going to cause minimal damage. And then, like I said, as we continue to look off to our east, Husky, Maple Grove, Truman, all in the path of this storm. But if you're farther east, you still have a little bit of time to get in and to make sure that you're in a safe place. Let's continue looking at some of our radar products here. This is our shear rate. So this basically is just the radar monitoring the amount of spin that we have in these storms. And usually, you can see our gauge up there, we're on that top end of the week. If we saw any reds in here, that would certainly be a much better indicator of a tornado, something on the ground. But these values high enough to where we certainly do not want to take this lightly. So we continue to keep an eye on that. And then as we take a look at this product, this kind of puts everything together. That hail threat, that shear threat, and as you can see, certainly a large area here possibly being impacted by some of that larger hail just north of Wiener and McDaniel, up into Otwell there. And like I said, this is going to be moving east as well. So even if that tornado just ends up being radar indicated, this storm's still capable of some very strong winds and some very large hail. In fact, let's go to our regular velocity product here. And like I said, this is the area we're keeping an eye on as far as the tornado goes. But that bright green area right there, that indicates very strong winds. And sometimes straight line winds can be just as dangerous as tornadic winds if they've got some good speed on them there. So let's take a look. 50 miles an hour, what our radar is reading right now. It looks like we even have a stronger cell up here closer to Jonesboro. That's about 35, 40 miles an hour. But when this storm was first issued for a severe thunderstorm warning, on the radar, we were seeing 70, 80 mile an hour winds possible. So that has come down just a little bit. But this storm possessing everything that could cause problems for us there. Strong winds, large hail, and that threat for a tornado as well. So, like I said, if you're just joining us, let me go back to our radar here. If you're just joining us, we are under a tornado warning for northern portions of Poinsett County. This is going to go until 2:45, so we have about another 25 minutes there. But we want to stay on the air with you as long as this warning is in place. So if you are impacted by the storm, if you're in the path of the storm, we want to make sure you've got that latest up-to-the-minute information, especially if you're just joining us. I know sometimes people say that we repeat ourselves a lot. Well, that's because someone may not have been with us 5 minutes ago that's with us now. So we want to make sure you have that up-to-date latest information so that you can stay safe. But like I said, right now, the area of the storm we're really keeping an eye on here is this little notch here. That's where that circulation is moving into the storm. That's where that air is moving in to feed this storm, so to speak. But the good news, like I said, if you live in Wiener, McDaniel, the storm now off to your east, so you're going to be okay. The storm moving away from you here. As you take a look, but like I said, we do have several areas ahead here. So let's put a new track on this. It's been a few minutes since we've done that, but let's go from the start of our circulation here and go out. This is only about 20 miles an hour, so actually let me take that off. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can put a better track on it here. And like I said, 30 miles an hour, so you certainly have time to get to a safe place here. But as we take a look, Truman, that's over here in the eastern portions of this warning, 3:05. So, like I said, you still have plenty of time there. But for areas like Cary, down into Harrisburg, I would say maybe 10, 15 minutes at the absolute tops. So you still have time to get to a safe place. But at this point, we want to make sure you at least know what is going on and you're making those preparations right now because this storm is continuing to move along. And at this point, doesn't show any real signs of slowing down. So let me click back off of this here and step off. Let's check with the Weather Service here because like I said, we have a great service with them. It's a chat room where we can talk with the Weather Service, emergency managers, storm spotters, anybody who would have relevant information in this case. And we do want to make sure that you are getting that latest information. Right now, we are talking about, looks like KAIT, that's one of the stations up in Jonesboro. They received a viewer photo of a wall cloud. So that would be kind of that last step step before you get a tornado. That would be the lowering of that base there of that thunderstorm, and usually that's where a tornado spawns from. So certainly we have the visual indicators there of a potential tornado, and like I said, we certainly have those indicators on the radar of a potential tornado. Let's go back to some of those radar products there. Like I said, we're keeping a very close eye on this because this is just going to be part of a larger trend as we go through the rest of the day. Most of the Mid-South under a severe thunderstorm warning until 9 o'clock tonight. Wind and hail really going to be the main concerns with any storms we see, but there's also, as you can see there, that tornado threat. So let me zoom in here. As you can see, this is the area that we're keeping an eye on. There's that center of rotation, and that is moving right towards Gullet and Greenfield. So if you live in those areas, you probably have 5, maybe 10 minutes before that storm moves into your neck of the woods. So I want to make sure you are inside, you are in your safe place, because the storm, like I said, continues to keep moving on to the east. We are getting reports. I'm trying to see if it's in this area here out of Poinsett County, Waldenburg. Reports of ping-pong-sized hail. That's about 1.5 inches in diameter. So like I said, obviously the tornado is our #1 concern here, is that center of rotation now moving just a little bit more to the east there. But as we take a look, we have certainly several threats that we're keeping an eye on this afternoon. Here's our hail tracker. So like I said, we're seeing some pretty heavy hail activity with the radar from Mulligan up into Otwell. You're not seeing it so much on the southern edge of the storm. So let me step back on screen here. So what we're noticing with that hail threat, it's not so much where the tornado is. There's where our center of circulation is and where we're keeping an eye on that potential tornado. But your hail core, your hail threat, is going to be just north of that in this kind of main bulk of the storm there. And some of these darker purples here, certainly heavy rain, but this could be some hail mixing in there as well. Sounds like we do have some pictures, video from KAIT with this storm. So there is one of those hail reports that we received, and those are some pretty decent sized hail chunks. I would say just gauging that off of sitting in his hand, at least 1 inch in diameter, maybe a little bit larger. And it looks like this might be the picture of that wall cloud that we saw. And as you can see, especially on the left side of the photo there, there's all that clear sky, that light area, and then there's just a very pronounced kind of dark area kind of jutting out from the bottom of the storm. That would be the area that we're keeping an eye on for a possible tornado, and certainly the atmosphere conducive to maybe some weaker tornadoes today, but certainly something we want to keep a close eye on. There's another photo there, and that, not seeing anything too pronounced, but certainly some dark, ominous looking storms. So like I said, all of this part of a much bigger picture, as we are expecting storms to continue throughout the day, becoming a little bit more widespread in coverage here. But let me, if I can, let me just step back here and kind of give you the big picture here, because as you can see, like I said, this is just one storm. The rest of the Mid-South pretty quiet at the moment, but what we're expecting is for these storms to start building in area and then moving in later on this afternoon, continuing into the evening. So even though we're not seeing much right now, unfortunately, it's been pretty sunny after some morning showers and storms, so we've got a lot of energy building in the atmosphere, and it is something that we could see this potential for more storms like this throughout the area as we go later on in the day.